many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high? Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high? Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide, in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide, in a champagne supernova, a champagne supernova in the sky. Wake up the dawn and ask her why. A dream, she never dies. Wipe that tear away now from your eye. Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high?
Ba, 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 ba.
If your daughter scratches at the door, you have to open it. All right, and
Nice.
one moment, please. Well, there. Okay, Dollface, I'm live.
Okay.
All right. Well, there it is. It looks like we are actually live in the main group now. So I've got it up on both my screens. Dollface, would you mind going over to your system and let me know if you can see the third square on our screen?
Well, you sure are making a lot of
I know I am. I appreciate you. So, and good morning to you, Joelle Starshine, and good morning to anybody who is going to be tuning in today for this spotlight interview. My name is Daywalker. I am the host and admin to this group for the past 13 plus years. My wife and I identify as Butch, assigned female at birth, and agender, which is a non-binary category, and so hashtag bearded Butch. And I have with me today, Joelle, and what I do on these spotlight interviews, so everybody's aware, is I pick and pull folks from our community who I feel that have either directly or indirectly bring about some visibility and relevance to our niche community of Butch Femme. And Joelle, I've seen your name for years, including back on the original site. And I feel like I've had you on a list of people I wanted to spotlight for a while. So having the opportunity to present it to you, I want to thank you for accepting the invitation to allow me to spotlight you. You know, a lot of people will get shy, and I know you're a little introvertal. I'm an extrovert, but I'm also a recluse, so I get it.
That's good.
All right, so you just see the two of us on the screen then?
alternately when one speaks.
All right, excellent. That works.
Perfect.
So, and I just so everybody knows, I generally don't give a heads up to the interviewee as to the questions I'm going to be throwing at them. There was one particular question that I did give Joelle a heads up on, and to give her some time to marinate on that. So I will throw that one out in a little bit to give you a little more time with that one. What I first wanted to highlight is breaking free. 45 years in the wrong body. This is your latest publication. Those of you who may be familiar with Joelle's work, you have been able to adjust yourself from artist on canvas. And then when that was a little compromised because of, as we age, you got some issues with the hands that didn't, that told you that maybe you need to switch gears. You switched gears artistically over to literary art.
Yes, I did.
And your adjustment to go over to that is a sign of an eccentric. Thank you. And it is a very admirable quality. A lot of folks who spend a lot of time in one genre of art are not able to pick up another or adjust themselves when that isn't an available option anymore. And so that's a very admirable qualities that you got there. You were able to switch it over. I've seen your paintings, and anybody who Googles your name, the first things that are going to come up is a series of paintings, and they're fucking awesome. They're beautiful, and some of them are just epic, and they speak volumes. So you were going to write this Breaking Free, and you were going to just be done, that you wrote it and happy with that, and it didn't happen that way, did it?
Not at all, no. It's
so
like,
explain what happened. What was the change after this publication that made you continue with the writing?
Well, short answer would be I kind of got the bug. But the truth of the matter is, since I could no longer hold a brush for very long, my eyesight diminished. But I knew I wasn't over creating, so something had to happen. And so I actually began trying to sing.
Did you?
I took singing lessons, private singing lessons, and went on for about a year of that. And realized that, one, I'm not as young as I used to be. So the wind wasn't always there,
right?
And who wants to hear
I'm at 57 now.
In
Full disclosure, I'm at 57 now. How many years do you have here on the earth?
I'm 67.
Wow.
So yeah,
well, you look good.
Thank you. But yeah, it was like, holy cow, I have to do something. And the switchover wasn't difficult once I realized that this is what I should be doing. I wrote the memoir I had written off and on over a number of years. They were notes and articles that I'd write for myself. And I ended up collating all of this together. And I received help from a writer, Don Renee Greer, who I think was or is part of the Butch Fam community.
Yes, I was going to say, I do recognize that name, yes. I think they're on my fringe list, actually.
Yeah. So, there you go. So Don helped me in editing and reformulating sentences, paragraphs, because I am originally French speaking. So until I really got the hang of things, I needed help. So Don helped me put this memoir together. And her name's on the book, by the way. Right down here.
Excellent.
And,
hold that up again. Let's see the front.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Ta-da! I love the cover.
Yeah, it's interesting, huh? That's from my editor. They designed and put the cover together. Had nothing to do with that. I think it's flashy, catches the eye. That's as it should be.
Yeah.
No?
Yes, it does.
But yeah, exactly. Anyhow, so yeah, Don helped me put that together, and at first it was like published on Amazon, and then some publishers in Toronto, Canada, noticed it, read it, and approached me about becoming my publishers, and I eventually agreed. We signed a contract, and I'm with them now. They're called Brainspired Publishing. Oh, and they're so sweet. They're very, very down to earth, and it's only LGBTQ plus people.
Yeah, right. Rainbow canopy. Right. We love the rainbow.
Only rainbow authors, right? So
right. Now, if somebody was to say, okay, introduce yourself, where do you start? If you was to say, said, introduce yourself to the audience, let's do that.
Okay. Well, where do I begin? I'm a creative. I think that identifies me the best, you know. After that, well, I'm a woman of trans origin. I don't use terms like transgender, not out of any animosity whatsoever, but it's about, you know, when you're trying to define yourself, you know, so that this is what, you know, woman
You
of
get
trans
to you get to
origin,
personalize it, right?
that's
So
all.
it's a
It has nothing to
personalization.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a slight towards anyone or anything. That's just who I am.
I get that. I get that. That's why I hashtag myself Bearded Butch, so that because otherwise
Yeah.
I get folks who are under the impression
Right.
transgender, and I don't want to take up space in an area that isn't mine.
Right.
I feel like it's disrespectful to
Exactly.
everybody else's journey. I'm just
Mhm.
a hairy Butch, you know. So,
There you go. So, you know,
so yeah.
yeah, so that kind of opens and closes the polemic about why I don't use that term. It's just because, you know, this is who I am, not that. That's all. It's not for any other reason.
I
So yeah,
totally
there's
get
that, you know, yeah. And yeah, I'm queer and identify as a lesbian. And yeah, it's
Now
like,
you were naturally drawn, I'm guessing, to the Butch Femme dynamic.
something,
Is this something
yeah.
that you discovered later on? Is it something? Is it an energy or dynamic that you had your eyes on for a while? How long have you and your Butch partner been together, and where did you meet?
Well, that's an easier way to go about it. Yeah. Yeah, I identify as femme, and my butch. Well, that identifies my butch right there, right? Doesn't it?
Right.
I saw Danny identifies as a butch, old school, you know. And yeah, and so we met at a candle sailing event at a couple of women's so their home. They were holding that thing. It's a bit like a Tupperware party, but you sell
Okay. All
scented
right.
candles.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and one of them heard that because I have a brother who's gay, and they know him, and they asked my brother Andre, hey, I heard that you have a sister who's trans. We have a friend that is questioning and, you know, thinking about and all that, and it would have questions. Would she be willing to come over and, you know, answer that person's questions? That person is Danny. So I went there with a slinky black dress with, you know, sequins on it, and heels, and
A little bit of that.
all
Yeah.
made up. Yeah. Well, I had just begun transitioning, so I was all about, you know, appearances. I think,
Right.
you know, for me that was important. So yeah, I
What year
really
was
put
that?
it on. That was let's see, 1999, I'd
Okay.
say,
All right.
thereabouts. And so I went over there with my brother and met with 2000. Danny's correcting me. 2000.
Excellent. Thank you, Danny.
Ta-da! It seemed longer. And so basically went over there, answered questions, and I'm a touchy type of person if I'm in proximity. So I like touching arms, you know, and things like that. And so I'd be doing that, you know, and without realizing, you know, that I was doing that. And then it was time for the event, the candle event. So we all moved to the kitchen, sitting on chairs and having a drink and listening to the host's daughter sell her produce or products. And Danny came closer to me, sit next to me with a chair. And I noticed that you know, he was checking me out, and I got very nervous, you know, and loved it, but also got very, very nervous.
Right.
So
Because you detected that there might be a crush going on, right?
Well, yeah, big time. So I left with my brother, and Danny would knock on the door here here and then. And I would say, I'm not here, I'm not here. And eventually I agreed to meet Danny. We went out on a date and it was great. And yeah, it's like we started officially going out. It was January 2nd, 2001. That I know is right. And yeah, and then in 2009, July 19th, we got married. You know, and we
Right on.
vacationed in San Francisco.
You were
Yeah,
just a
so-
minute away.
Voilà.
Well, a couple hours, but you were just a couple hours away from us. Yeah.
Yeah, in 2009, we went to, it was during Pride Week in San Francisco. So we rented a room at a B&B on the Castro.
Oh,
The little side street off the Castro. I can't remember the number of the name. But anyhow, we spent like, I can't remember the number of days. I won't say because I'll get corrected. But it was like at least, it was about a week, more or less. And we had a great time and then came back and yeah. You know, we've been together for quite a while now. And yeah, it's like, it's one of my better moves. You know, it's one of my better decisions.
pretty proud of yourself on that one. Yeah.
Well, I never expected.
Now, I know you all live in a rural area, which is one of the reasons
We do.
why, you know, your bandwidth is a little low. So, but that, you know, hey, that's just the price you pay to be away from the rest of the world so that you have, you know, some solitude, solace, and you're able to write without the interruptions of noise pollution and whatnot
Exactly.
outside of your door, and that has to be it's almost a tool these days to people. People actually will go away somewhere for a few months just to be in solitude to write, like Stephen King, right?
Like Stephen King.
So, but how much of your life do you lend to actually attending gatherings that might be community related?
None.
Mm-hmm.
Well, up this way, there's nothing. In Montreal, there's nothing. Like in terms of
Wow.
Butch Fam, there's, you know, yeah, there's never really been much activity. Danny and I, many years ago, I tried getting a little something going, you know, like party wise, in the gay village. And, you know, it just, you know, there's some Butch Fam couples and all that, but it was like no one really knew each other, and there weren't that many that were out, like party wise.
It's just as
So
hard
it's
these
just-
days to gather,
Yeah,
to get folks
it didn't
together.
happen.
It's just as
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. So,
Now,
yeah.
The readings that you're doing now for Breaking Free,
Yes.
thus far, what has been
Mhm.
the most profound experience you've had
Wow.
for these readings?
Okay. Well, it would be the last reading I did was for Glad Day Bookshop in Toronto. It's the largest and oldest LGBT. It's the oldest queer freaking library in Canada.
Wow.
You know, the best bar none. They're on Yonge Street near the gay village. We did it Zoom because of COVID, because of the pandemic and all.
Yeah.
And there was people in attendance, and there was other speakers also, you know. But the reading was it was all about my book, and it was my first reading, and it was the best reading. Where did I hear that before? It was the best at times. Okay, never mind.
Right, that's coming.
Yeah. So, but it was great. It was great because although I was kind of nervous, and so it came out a little choppy, it was so much fun. It's like I soon forgot that I was, you know, there was people listening in and all that and watching, and I just got into that chapter and read, and I realized I enjoyed it. You know, I enjoy writing much more, but it's okay now to do readings. It's not
Good.
as anxiety ridden as I thought it would be.
Well,
So.
if it makes you feel any better, the spotlight that I had with Dr. Amy Truth Murphy before we began, they expressed that they have stage fright. And so we made sure that we spent some time, mingling and whatnot before I hit the live button.
Okay.
But it surprised me because this is somebody at the University of London, the Royal Holloway, and the size of the lecture classes as a professor of gender studies, I imagine, are large. But going on video live gave them that sense of anxiety I would have had in front of a classroom, so it was interesting. So you're not alone on that, but they eventually, it was like they did the same thing as you. They just, within a few minutes, actually, of me asking questions, they forgot all about being on the camera.
Yeah. It's magical like that.
It is. It
totally is. It totally is.
I recall trying to do a spoken word back in 2009 at the Butch Voices conference, and I thought I was going to pass out. I'd never done anything like that before, and I got through it. And the difference between that year and the last conference they had was night and day. I took to that podium like nothing, and it was like, it just became second nature. But I recall very much so the anxiety and whatnot that I had, and it was a couple of the other spoken word artists who actually helped me to get through those anxious moments, and assured me that as soon as I got started, it would all go away and I wouldn't pass out. I love them to death for that to this day. So here comes the one question I did give you a heads up on. They have a term, and a lot of us have heard this before, and it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So taking your clock of 67 years, you give me an example of one of each.
Okay, so I'm going to boil it down to the best of times. Okay, right. It was it was my transition. Okay,
all right.
But more than that, it was how I came about, and that's Danny. Danny took care of all of that. Danny's actually saved my butt, so that was the best of times. It was like Danny took charge and made sure that I had the means to do it, because at that time SRS, or GRS now, wasn't covered by Canada Health Plan or nothing like that. So
and it gets costly. It gets costly.
Yeah. So Danny took care of that. There was numerous surgeries, and she says, "I'm going to pay. If you want to leave after, you're free." And
no strings attached.
No strings attached. And it took a while, in our relationship, and then I did accept, and that was the very best of times.
Best of times.
My hero.
I feel like there's a lot of romance behind all that.
There is.
Yeah. I love
my
that.
hero.
Yeah, exactly.
My Butch hero.
Butch Shiro.
Butch hero. There you go. Butch hero. Say it fast enough. So that was the best of times for me, because it meant survival. So that means everything.
Well, it attributes to the shine that you have now. Yes.
Yeah. So, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the worst of times, there's a few, but there's I think that one that comes to mind only because of the book, the memoirs, is a moment when I was, I guess around 14 or maybe younger. It was winter, and our backyard, we had a couple of spotlights out because my father would make an ice rink, clear up the snow and, prepare ice. But this time it had snowed quite a bit, and the snow was kind of wettish, heavy, sticky, and maybe about a foot or so deep. And a cousin of mine, he's dead now, but he was a person that had certain personality issues. Not bad by any means, but could change on, like at the drop of a hat. And I thought it was a good idea to make a snowball and throw it towards him. And it hit him on the side of the head. And he just went from big smiley hunk to some kind of raging bull, kind of, and he ran towards me, and I fell on my back. He was on top of me, holding me by the throat, and
Wow.
I couldn't see anything because the walls of the snow, because it was soft, I just sunk into it. So I could only see like the walls of the snow, right? And I felt for sure that was it, and that I wouldn't be, I would no longer be. And as suddenly as that happened, and just when I was starting to lose consciousness, he stopped, got up and laughed and say ha ha ha, and he referred to himself as some kind of a superhero or something anyhow, and it stopped there.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a bad time, not life-changing and not major, but when you feel that maybe that's one of your last breaths,
Right.
it is big.
Well, and it stuck with you this long
it did.
for this to be
Yeah.
your answer to that question. So that, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Those kind of things, they ingrain,
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and it is difficult to deal with folks who are, fragmented, beyond their own control. And because you don't know, really what their reactions to some simple things might be. And that's a difficult category to navigate, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, he was a good soul. It's just, when I did that, it's triggered something, and boom, sometimes it's not possible to understand or to explain
or
that sort of
predict
thing, or predict,
right.
So he was always like jovial. So, yeah. So there you go.
Well, let me roll over to, do you have a favorite quote?
Yeesh. You know what? My last favorite quote, I'll even read it to you.
Okay.
Oops. Okay, so it's believing you are unworthy of love and belonging, that you are authentically, that who you are authentically is a sin or is wrong, is deadly. Who you are is beautiful and amazing. That comes from Laverne Cox, actress and advocate for LGBTQ rights.
Laverne.
And I got permission to put it on the back cover of my book.
See, now that's a beautiful connection right there, right?
Isn't it? I know. So,
favorite author?
Favorite author, my gosh, right now I'd say it's Stephen King, because I've been rereading many of his pieces, but also, I mean, it's very hard. I feel guilty when I say, oh, it's Stephen King or so-and-so, or, because there's so many, and I enjoy them. I enjoy all of them, It could be Margaret Atwood, Stephen King, Thomas Harris. There, my mind just blows trying to
My
remember names.
inspirations for doing my own collective short stories was Stephen King.
Yeah.
My favorite books of his were Skeleton Crew and Night Shift.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved well, first of all, my attention span. It really it lends itself and it favors the short stories. And so in writing them, I found that I was doing the same thing. My own attention span for a long story out of myself wasn't there. And so I totally get it, the Stephen King. Love. And they used to write under Richard Bachman, I think it was.
Bachman, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
and they wrote under that name, and a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah. I picked up on that early on.
The Marathon Man, I think it was.
Marathon Man. And one of my favorites is actually Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of reading that one, and it's not a huge book, but yeah, I really love that one. But then again, I love The Stand, and it's like yellow,
You have begun a new book,
yes,
and I know that having a little bit of insight into that, you're integrating a lot of the rainbow canopy into the characters. And whatnot for representation, visibility, relevance, things like this. So while you're in the middle of this one, are you already considering the next one?
I'm considering 4 others that have all begun, and they're at different levels of formation in my mind. But this one I'm working on at present is a serial killer thriller that has a lot to do with the LGBTQ plus community. The main character is of course, a trans woman. No,
yeah,
get out of here. And
the hell you say?
And one of the officers that she needs to work with is an ex-lover who's this butch woman of color. And it's complicated.
It already sounds like there's going to be a lot of layers in that. Yeah.
Yes, there is. But it's, I began that not knowing exactly what I was doing. Like in terms of story and plot, and then after a while I realized that I don't plot, I write. So I let it just guide me, sort of thing. And so far, touch wood, it's going very well. I'm more than 2/3 of the way there. I know how it's going to finish now, how it's winding down.
That's awesome.
So I should be done by the end of October. The first draft. That's
the area where a lot of folks say kind of vapor lock, and it becomes a wall almost because they can't wrap it up in their head yet. And sometimes you'll start it, and then it's years later you come back to it because it dawns on you all of a sudden how to finish that one, right?
Absolutely.
So your goals.
Yeah.
What are your current goals going forward now?
Well, my as far as literature is concerned, like writing is just my goal is to keep writing until I fall. Basically, it's like I enjoy. You know what? Now I write each and every morning.
Very disciplined
for a couple of hours. Oh, it's only a recent development, so don't throw too many flowers. It's very, very new to me. I am really, really, really good at procrastinating.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I don't call it that. I call it, oh, I'm busy. But I'm getting a chuckle. Danny's laughing at me.
I'm a slide into home base at the last minute person myself.
Yeah.
I find
So,
I'm best under that last minute pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So,
even when I'm not writing, I'm writing.
yeah.
That's my excuse. Yeah, it's okay. I'm thinking.
Right,
But
right.
yeah,
I have to get a vision,
know,
and my wife has heard that so often.
yes,
I'm
yeah,
waiting to get a
yeah,
vision before I can complete this project. Yes.
yeah. But
So your
yeah,
characters, how many of them
yeah.
have been inspired by a real-time meeting with somebody?
Well, a few of them. I met this Butch woman in Toronto many years ago. I mean, back in the early 2000s. It was at a Pride weekend, and she was dressed in light leather, like the vest and that sort of thing, and she had a bike, and I just happened to be walking by, and I looked at her, and I remember how my neck just followed as my body went the other way, sort of thing. And then I nearly, tripped and failed, but I didn't. But basically, the person's look, their presence, the way that they held themselves, really created an impact, a visual impact on me.
You were captured
And
by
it
their
stayed.
essence.
Absolutely. And so that stayed with me. So that's the Officer Teresa Cook in my story, who is a Black SEAL Teams du Quebec officer. Yeah, and there's another one. She's a hard of hearing, very hard of hearing, light burglar. I
Just
had to do a
dabbles
lot
in
of
it,
research
right?
in that one because
Dabbles in burglary.
yeah. Like she's a very quick wit, very smart, but she has that penchant for appropriating things. But she becomes part of the core group that will end up solving murders and that sort of thing. And she's a lesbian also. Yeah. So a lot of them are like that. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, there are characters like that.
In our main group here, Butch main group, the top, it gives us a listing of the top 10 countries that make up the membership. Canada is third.
Oh, really?
It shows that we've
I'm
got
surprised.
700, and this is only off the information that people make public, so that Facebook can gather the numbers. So it goes United States, South Africa, Canada, and from there's United Kingdom, Australia, Philippines, Jamaica, Nigeria, Kenya, and Germany, and then they stop there. They don't show us anything else, but it says 742 members from the Canada.
Nice.
And,
Represent.
Right. So when you said that some years back he found it difficult to get our niche culture to gather in Canada, can I just tell you that even if we have high numbers in the U.S., there was a time when you could 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where gathering was a thing, and you could get 200 to 500 folks together from this community, and and these days it's even more difficult because of the social media platforms. There's so many of them, and it's got us all spread very thin now. Because 15 years ago there was like 1 or 2 sites you could go to, and so a lot of gathering, you could yell across the room and the news would hit everybody. And these days you just get back an echo. So it hasn't improved getting folks together. It's really difficult to get the word out, and what now my wife and I are discovering.
It is.
And so so I just wanted to make a note of that, because it looks like you've got enough people out there in Canada, even though it's spread out.
We're spread out.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that
but
the largest numbers would be in Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, and probably out west in Vancouver, British Columbia,
okay.
because they're Anglophone, and so the culture lends itself easier because the words and the terms and all that.
Yeah,
Whereas in Quebec, it's Francophone, so French. So it's then you
interesting.
have to reinvent all the nomenclature and all that. So it's it hasn't caught on in the same way as in English speaking provinces.
Well, and there's
There's
that
some, there's
actually
some.
helps me roll right into my next inquiry, which is, those of us who are 5, 6, 7 decades into
Uh-huh.
our time here, uh, 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 a lot of the terms and language that we're rooted in for this community in particular. Now, some of them are terminologies that have been around forever and are being rebirthed, and some of them are terminologies that are invented in the last decade to cover a wider variety under particular identities. And how has it been for you to keep up with some of these terms and language that we're using nowadays?
In all honesty,
Go
I
ahead.
haven't kept up. I have not kept up. We are so isolated here. We're alone, and doing the things that we have to do, like gardening or work around the house, or
Homesteading.
I no longer have nails. No more nails. That sort of thing is taken.
So, do you think with the lack
it's
of
been put aside.
social obligations, it's become a lot less of a priority to have to keep up with these things, I would think?
Well, yeah, it's not a priority for me any longer. The first years that we moved to the countryside, I, kind of missed, going to parties and dressing up and going to the hairdressers and to the estheticians and shopping.
Shopping.
So I was really, really well versed in that area. When I went and got my trousseau, I mean,
Yeah.
it was something else.
Yes,
But it
yes.
was like, wedding dress and all that. Yeah, now it's like I think I'm much more grounded. I prefer saying that. In terms of living, and no, I've lost track. I'm sure that the new terms and the new expressions are really things of beauty, and I haven't been following because I'm getting old, and my mind's all wrapped up. My mind's wrapped up in what I'm doing in front of the computer. But let it be known, no matter how you identify, I accept and embrace and love you.
Embrace the hell out of it, right? It was interesting. I heard something just this morning. I heard somebody say, if you don't know how old you are, how old do you feel? And it's interesting because I thought about that, well, if we don't have a time step, if we don't know what year we're born, if we don't have that knowledge, then how old do we actually feel? Right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually don't feel maybe a day older than 28, 29, mentally,
Right,
but
right.
of course, I'm rapidly brought to reality when I try to do too much physical work. Then I realize that, maybe I'm not 29, maybe I'm more
The
like
more noise we
67.
make when we have to stand up.
Oh, the creaks, and the growls and the creaks.
Yeah. That's been a thing. Well, I actually have on my list of projects. It keeps getting bumped down towards the bottom, but it's a file I have. It's a complete mess right now. It needs to be organized. It's a glossary, and it's something I'm trying to work on so that I can post it into the group and assist people with some of the terminology and whatnot, because just yesterday or the day before, there was a thread, and somebody who is an elder come in and said, I hate to show my age, but I'm not sure exactly what this means. And so I'm hoping to help unveil some of that for folks who love this community, love the niche part of this culture. We do, in fact, have probably the most diverse set of identities regarding sexuality and gender than any other community under the rainbow canopy.
Oh, definitely.
And because we have survived off of our roots of inclusion, and that stance has kept us alive. And instead of dissolving, we've evolved. Although it still says Butch Femme on the top of the marquee, what follows below that is a whole expansive set of identities that you'll find that there are a lot of folks walking around with a plate and nowhere to sit down at with it, and that's where we have our doors wide open, and for the expansion of people who don't even because as a full spectrum community we host, it's the Butch Femme dynamic is still being the predominant. We embrace and celebrate all dynamics underneath this marquee, and so we have Butch for Butch, stud for stud, femme for femme, trans for femme. It doesn't matter. It's the individualized identities that we welcome in, and this has really expanded into folks who don't identify as Butch or femme, but really find the space welcoming. And they're enjoying their time amongst us.
May I just say,
yes,
one of the things that really helped me after coming out, after the transition, was the Butch Femme community. It was the first place where I felt at home, where I felt included and accepted, loved even. Being oriented towards other women, it felt good. I know not all identify exactly, like women, but it was a place where I could come to and not have to, hide or to be secretive or too worried, no more than normal or usual.
Right.
So
and there's some platforms where you go into and then you've got to watch things like transphobic posts go unchecked, and that's not a safe space at all.
Not at all.
And I'm very proud of our own community because we have a sense of validation we're all kind of looking for, and I've got an entire clustered list of all the identities that we welcome, and I think it that's what gives us our staying power. I think
it does, because it's always renewed, it's always changing, evolving, being modified somewhat, and it always stands, right? It's always there and strong. So
although
it's a great community.
The age range of 35 and under, the numbers are very low on membership, and I have to attribute that to the fact that there's a lot more gender fluid and gender queer and non-binary fields opening up, and a lot of the younger folks are drawing towards that and might see Butch Femme as an antiquated terminology, but because we wonder who will we pass the batons on to that will be able to host the spaces, and I tell you that's been a real reality smack for me this last year. Looking for somebody who's coming at it from a point of humility, and who has the time and the emotional bandwidth to do so, and that is tough, because when you're not going to get back what you put into it, and a lot of folks will stop right there as soon as they realize it's not going to reciprocate itself back. You know, they may not continue to want to do something like, well, you know, that's just not the way to look at it. Just host a space, and once in a while you get somebody who may come into your message box and remind you of how important that space is.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
That's
I've seen
what you just said in there
community
with the welcoming that you got says everything and makes every minute of this worth it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at first, when I first got, you know, I was part of it, I had a lot of uncertainties because, you know, what people might say in posts, and then when you do approach, you know, the response, you know, there was always this fear that the response I would see right away that it wasn't sincere, or it was just being polite, and I was wrong. It wasn't. It was really sincere. It was real. You know, so that's something that I take away from it as a huge positive. You know, I think I don't know the other communities as well, so I can't really speak to how they are. But that the Butch Femme community is the community in which I felt most at home. You know, I'm a terrible recluse. So
there was a time when I was, you know, using the term subculture because we were spawned off of the mainstream L word community when folks saw that there needed to be made more room for the identities and whatnot that we would fall under that were not necessarily in line with the mainstream L word community, and I just found that I dropped off sub, and now it's just this culture because I feel as though we've earned our own space as a culture in today's time, and I hope that in 20 years, you know, it's still up and going, it's difficult to try and maintain something like that again across so many platforms. If I had the time, you know, I'd be all over Quora and Reddit and all this. I get the little emails and stuff, and I see some of the topics they're addressing in there, and you know, and I want to go in there and participate, but we have a full-time job of hosting 5 groups, and it makes it hard for me to come out of the bubble. But I had to come out of the bubble because spending more time out of the bubble means outreach and networking and connections, and that is just as important for me to see who else is moving and shaking out there, and to also reach out to some subcategories of this particular community that branched off some years back, such as the Stone community, the OFOS community, and make sure that I can at least introduce the idea that everybody and all dynamics are welcome under this marquee. And so I found that while I had to actually force myself to make the time to do so, and I'm finding it was well worth it to branch out and see what else is going on out there. So it is. I'm in the middle of writing to some pages out there, Facebook pages, and inviting them to join the group as a page and post their content, which will avoid me having to go to those pages and sharing the content to the group. I'd like them to come in and feel free to share themselves and have another platform to expand their audience. And that's about where I'm at now.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's good because it means expansion and reaching out, and you know that's how you renew it. How you keep young, you know, as a group. And also the theory of inclusion. I mean, this is a stance that has kept us. You know, it's been our adhesive. So I just thought over the last year I've been branching out and doing that because it's kind of important, you know. I mean, we're not the only Butch Femme group on Facebook, but we are the largest and probably the oldest, and it's kind of important that we kind of take that on as serious as a serious part of the role, and
work to keep it going, because the space
Yeah.
is, I mean, we'll see the activity drop and drop and then go up and then drop but it's important to keep it going, because even if just a small percentage of these folks express it, it's an important safe space for them to come to. And
Oh, absolutely.
that's been, you know, there's times I'm sure that my wife and I would just like, I give up.
I've had it
Because there she is, and
3 times a day.
yeah. But then we get little reminders once in a while that helps reboot our itinerary. So, but I want to thank you so much for accepting the spotlight interview.
I appreciate it. Thank you
I'm
for
going to be working with
inviting me.
my laptop and working this week on getting yours and the professor's videos actually processed and uploaded to the YouTube. Whereas my laptop has vapor locked 3 times now on trying to get the other one doing. So again, I'm going to increase the memory on it and go at it again. I know that will solve that problem, and I will be able to continue doing these and getting them up to YouTube. And I'll be sure and share the link onto the group feeds.
Oh, please.
And with you when they're done.
Yay.
So,
I'm looking forward
thank
to
you,
it.
and our love to your Butch in the background.
Yeah, she's out in the balcony having a cigar.
Oh, excellent. That's so Butch. Out on the balcony having a cigar.
I'd be out there with
that's where my wife would be. Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
So from there, I'm going to close this out.
Okey-dokey.
But thank you very much for this. It's
a
been
pleasure.
a thrill.
Thank you very much, Day. Have a nice one. Okay.